Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing Devil May Cry, DmC, Definitive Edition, on Gods Must Die! Difficulty mode, with turbo enhanced visuals, hardcore mode, mission 6 of 6, and this is the first confrontation. So if you're coming here from Vergil Must Die difficulty, you will see no variations in the enemies because they're all the same. However, we do have a couple of difficult fights in this chapter. I was surprised to see rages early on in this chapter. I think they're going to spawn in the next wave. But a couple of the phases do have rages, and the fight that I thought was particularly challenging the last time around on Vergil Must Die, with the witch and the two butchers. This time, here's the thing about that. It was harder to actually get to that wave, I think, than actually complete the wave in question. And looking back at this guide, you know, I was so relieved and proud of myself for beating the first mission of this guide. And the disparity of my mentality now and before I was capable of beating the first mission. I think these are the rages right here. Yeah, the disparity is wider than any gulf that we're flicking enemies into. I don't even think this difficulty is hard at this point in time. But man, before I was capable of beating the first mission, I was just in awe of this difficulty, scared of it. I can't even tell you how scared of it I was, and how proud I was of myself when I beat this first mission. And I think that is common, actually, very commonplace in my guides. You know, you take a look at my dealings with Metal Gear Rising. It was the same kind of thing, where it's just a really excruciating difficulty. But I always let that prevent me from sometimes trying games and difficulties, but not anymore. I mean, I don't shy away from difficulties. I mean, I did attempt to beat God Hard mode on Vanquish, but to me that game is unbeatable, sadly. But this fight over here, like I mentioned before, worst fight in the game, worst design of a fight, and challenging too. You've got a couple of wisps here, and I think there's 3 waves. So preserving your devil trigger is actually something you're going to have to do quite a lot. And I ran into the same bugginess in this chapter that I ran into when I did this guide before, with enemies not loading properly. You know, I would only get some of the enemies to spawn, and then when I killed those enemies, for instance, take the fight right before the final encounter, when you have several, you have like 2 phases where there's harpies. You have a Death Knight who's flanked by 2 rages. I would many a time get the 2 rages, but not the Death Knight. So whenever I spawned into the fight and only saw the 2 rages and not the Death Knight, I knew that it was necessary to just exit out of the software, close the application, and restart, because I would never get the full spawn to occur, which is regrettable. So over here, it looks like we're in the middle of this endurance here, and the witch and the 2 harpies are a-coming. So what we need to do is preserve our health. And the next fight is actually the challenging one. So what you want to do here is pull these Bathos enemies to you. And on these games, you really have to be the director when you're playing. And what I mean by that is moving the camera constantly around. And I know it can be aggravating with the camera only being at a set sensitivity, and that sensitivity being pretty slow. But I think adjusting the camera, moving the camera, and only putting it on the enemies when you're ready is half of the element of this game. So remember, on these witches, it's forward X plus A, or square plus whatever, a square. I think it's, what is it, square plus X to snap her out of her portal and dispatch her accordingly. So what I was saying before in my other guide about this next fight that's coming up, about the need for Devil Trigger, I don't think you really need Devil Trigger on the fight that's going to be coming up, because when I did this guide originally on Vergil Must Die a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know that the butchers self-terminated, and what I would do is put myself in extreme peril to try to finish them off, not knowing that it wasn't me that was killing them. Not really, anyway. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's just a waiting game. That's all it is, for those things to terminate. And I love that I love knowing that. I love that whole mechanic, and it's just a joy to discover things like that. So here's a basic opportunity to accrue your Devil Trigger, and I did have some glitches. You will see some of these butchers behaving in the same way that you've seen them behaving before, and I will let you know of a little spot that I found behind I think it's like a stack of hay or something, or some rocks, where you can stand and the enemies are disinclined to come over there. So if you really are struggling on the next fight, you can actually just stay back there and lure enemies as close to that as you can. But it's just not necessary, but it is a legitimate place to take note of, because it's a great place to stand. There's plenty of visibility right over here. It's immediate. I'll let you know when I go back there. But this wave here, all it is one Ravager plus many of these small rages, and then the next wave you'll have, I believe it's two more Ravagers, 2 more Elite Stygians. So I think this is 4 waves. So let's just take a look here. I love examining waves on endurance fights. So here's wave 2. You only see one guy here because I'm keeping the camera on him. Fell to my peril. Well, not my deathly peril. But yeah, it does look like there's 2 and 2 of those enemies. And then wave 3 will be 3 Death Knights and a grouping of rages. Small rages, if I can remember correctly. And I can. I actually had to edit out of this session because I missed another one of these little cutscenes right there, and I got it this time. So, what I would do, and by the way, I love the little squishing sound that the rages make when they expire. What I would do is probably use the asynchronous Devil Trigger on the rages, just to get everybody killed, and then focus on killing these guys. Got a beautiful solar flare right there. I wish it would have knocked all 3 enemies into the chasm. But we're going to get everybody pretty soon. And then, you know the drill on the butchers. When they rear up from the ground, try to do that solar flare, or, if you prefer, the other charges. Suffice to say, just get the charge, combo them in the air, and then I will be showing you where to go not to make this happen where one of them freezes, but look at that fucking witch. Did you see that? I was trying to run for cover. That fucking witch nailed me with all those swords. Fucking witch. So it's the sword storms to get her out of her portal. I may have done I did the storm swords. So you can come back here, and like I mentioned, if you go back in that area, none of the enemies chase you. So it wasn't my going back there that caused that enemy to freeze. it is the ineptitude of the programmers, because that guy was going to freeze no matter where I ran. So preserve your devil trigger. And I personally think that the next fight is harder than this one, just because it's a nerve-wracking experience, and it's laden with those issues that I mentioned on my first guide, and I'll mention them again, where the software, like when you would reset from the checkpoint, all you would be greeted with is a black screen, and you'd have to close the software, reopen it, and after rebooting it, it would work. But I can't tell you how many times, like what I mentioned here, sometimes the Death Knight wouldn't spawn, and only the Rages would spawn, and that meant that if I killed the Rages, no other enemies would spawn. So this is actually challenging. It's because you've got a pair of Harpies twice over, and you've got a couple of Hell Knights on the ground to deal with. And I don't think I mentioned it last time, but on Vergil's campaign on the 360, I think you had a platform that you could go up on this area of the game, and it housed one of the health shards or something like that, the devil trigger shards, and you'd have to do a lot of enemy stepping, and it was just ludicrous. And I think that's what they took out over here. But what I'm going to be doing is using the summon swords just to get rid of the Harpies, and I think I do it twice, but I don't do anything else, just because getting the Harpies out of the way is just the most imperative thing. And I mean, sometimes they will stab you from off screen, which is really, it's aggravating, and it's unpredictable, and it's not really in keeping with the modus operandi of these enemies of not attacking when they're not on the screen. But the nerve-wracking aspect for me is simply the fact that I know there's only one fight coming up, and it's going to be a difficult fight because it's the final fight, and I'll want to bring some devil trigger into that fight. So, and just the fact that there's airborne enemies here who are really deadly, and I think one deadly enemy on the ground, namely that Death Knight. So we're just going to combo this Harpy as much as we can. Couldn't latch on to anybody, but I think we have a few enemies here, and I'm not going to take any chances here. Not only because this is a hard fight, but because too often, like every 4 fights, every 4 failures are resetting from checkpoint like 4 or 5 times. It seemed like 3 times actually, or I don't know. It seemed like it was too often though. I would just be greeted with that black screen, or if I died, I would get the incongruent spawns that would foreshadow hardship for me. But watch out for that whip attack. That whip attack can pretty much, it will trail over to you as far as you are. So what I'm going to be doing here is some pretty aloof tactics of kiting around these enemies, and I'm not going to risk hitting the knight with his shield, because he has that wicked parry that deals you, well, I'm not sure of the exact damage output, but it would definitely kill me. There's his drive, because he was glowing white. And I'm trying to do some chip damage on this elite Stygian, try to take him down to fucking Chinatown, motherfucker, and then deal with this last guy here. But I've got to beware of his hits, and I need to punish him when he's vulnerable. So there's a period of vulnerability right there. But I think I'm just going to use the sword rain on this guy, because he's too deadly, and I spent far too long here dealing with the ineptitudes of the programmers. And that's sad when you pay full price for a game, but it's what we become accustomed to these days, and we shouldn't accept it, and I don't. You know, what more can I do? I speak out about it. I contact Bethesda. Was it Bethesda? No. I contacted Ninja Theory. They never responded to me. Typical, right? But anyway, you know, So what does this guy do? He's got that 2-hit combo. He's got the 1-hit combo where he's vulnerable to punish right there. So punish hard, man. Okay, so after this fight here, we are going to do some mild platforming and then get to the gated area where we fought a battle in mission 1, and it is a 3-wave gauntlet of sorts. And I took about 5 tries to do it, just because, you know, when a tyrant hits you, it's a mandatory restart in my opinion. But you're gonna have 2 tyrants right away, and I will show you a way to juggle them. Basically, we're gonna be doing the angel pool to give us more hang time, I guess is the word for it. But you just want to juggle these guys as best you can. So but when you juggle them, it's imperative that you have your back to the other one, because then he'll just be preoccupied on the other side of the screen. So just keep hitting him and do a trio of slashes, namely the aerial rave, and then do the L2 plus square to pull him to you. And you know, that just keeps you, like, it resets your position in the air, just like the enemy steps and jump canceling. So we're going to do the same thing on this guy. And if I can get the charge going, there we go. So just triangle, 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 L2 square, repeat ad nauseum until he's dead. Sometimes you'll push him off of the ledge, but that means that you go off the ledge too, because I don't think you can just push him off the ledge without going off the ledge with him. But it's not too crucial. Anyway, so that's phase 1. Here's phase 2. You've got 2 Ravagers and 2 Elite Stygians, it looks like. Is that 2 and 2? Yeah, it's 2 and 2, but it's still a dangerous wave, because getting those tyrants killed is not hard, but it's kind of lengthy sometimes. But that juggle, it makes it really expedite matters. So, you know, just conserve your health as much as possible here. It all goes without saying. And, you know, just beware of that chainsaw. What was I doing here that I wanted to say? Oh, sometimes when you see the yellow button on the very bottom left, it's because I have the asynchronous on L3, and when I'm moving around a lot, the button just gets depressed. So, you know, I can't do anything about it. When I see it, I try to toggle it off. But anyway, just keep flicking everybody into the abyss, and then we'll have the... Now, I just remembered this guy's name. Man, it's going to elude me, isn't it? Oh, I know what it is. The Imprisoned. So, I was forgetting what the name was, but now I do know. So what I think my tactic over here is kind of just a barrage. This is the first time I got to him, so I just wanted to just end this whole affair. So I have the demon doppelganger going right here, and I'm using it to hit just about everything here. Watch out for the barbed wire that he throws out. So what I think is the best way to deal with this situation is to just dispatch the 2 wisps, put your back towards the imprisoned, dispatch the wisps. They're not too hard. Just keep throwing the swords at them to put them in corporeal form from ethereal. And then when you get this guy, just when it's just you and him, excuse me, juggle him in the air as best as possible after you launch him with one of the perfect charges. Actually, you can't launch enemies with the perfect slice, but see, this is all it is. And I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I'm not going to put the leaderboards in like I did for Gods Must Die, but I'll still have the scorecard and the congratulations page. So, if you did that, congratulations. Take care.